Imagine this. One day, science claims it could scan your brain, copy your memories, and ignite your consciousness inside a digital world. Sci-fi? Maybe. But also a belief that's gripping many serious thinkers today. The core conviction? If your brain is a biological machine, then surely all it takes is the right neural scan and enough computational horsepower to copy the entire pattern and voila, you live on. But let's pause. Why do we find this so convincing? It's because, lurking below, we've absorbed a subtle but powerful assumption that a person is fundamentally a pattern of information. Like a saved file, you could be downloaded, uploaded, even backed up. Sound familiar? Now, you might be thinking, isn't this just common sense? If the memories and personality are still there, isn't that me? Well, let me tell you, this assumption is carrying a lot more weight than it seems. It's the difference between a recipe and a cake. Just because you have the instructions doesn't mean you're biting into dessert. So here's our setup. The mind-uploading dream rests on treating identity like an arrangement of bits, a pattern that could be preserved or moved given the right technology. But does that pattern truly capture what it means to be you? Let's dig deeper. And to do that, we'll need to challenge the very roots of this information pattern idea. Because, as we'll see, not everything that can be described can actually be preserved. Here's a puzzle for you. If you disappear every night in deep sleep, how come you always wake up certain you're still the same person? During anesthesia, there's no experience, no awareness, not even any sense of time passing. But when consciousness flickers back on, it feels like a direct continuation, not a reboot or a handoff to someone new. So, what's really persisting through these gaps? It can't just be memory, because people with amnesia still feel like themselves. It can't just be consciousness, because you're unconscious half your life. The real issue is the difference between describing a pattern and actually existing as that pattern. Now you might protest, but if I can describe my mind in detail, doesn't that mean I can recreate myself? Well, think of a map. It describes the terrain, but it isn't the terrain. In information theory, a description is an encoded representation, but existence is the real, ongoing instance. Here's the rub. Mind uploading confuses these two. It assumes that if you have a perfect description, a data pattern, you have preserved the thing itself. But your identity is not just a description. Like the difference between a symphony score and its live performance, the event of experience can't be reduced to static information. This tension between pattern and presence is the heart of our conflict. The uploading dream is built on a silent confusion, and it's about to face the music. Interdimensional rendering theory, or DRT. This framework says you're not an object, not a memory bank, and definitely not a file. Instead, you're a dynamically maintained, rendering an ongoing process that stays coherent over time. Much like a movie that exists only as long as the projector is running, DRT introduces the idea of a locus of perspective. Now, I know that sounds technical, but imagine it as the unique angle from which experience is happening. Not a thing, not a story, not a list of traits, but the fact that it's happening from this point of view rather than any other. You might ask, if identity isn't stored, isn't it fragile? Yes, and that's the point. According to DRT, as long as the rendering process remains above a certain threshold of coherence, the minimum level of system-wide integration needed to sustain experience your identity is preserved. Drop below that, and the rendering collapses. Let me tell you a story. There are documented cases where people emerge from deep comas with their personalities intact. The content of their experience vanished, but the underlying rendering process quietly stayed above that critical threshold. When awareness resumed, the same locus of perspective came back online. So, in this model, identity is not a static pattern, but a living, breathing event, a slice of reality in motion. Stop the rendering, and the identity ends. Press play again, and it's a new show, even if the plot looks the same. Let's apply DRT to the big question. If you upload your mind, what actually happens to you? Suppose the biological brain keeps running after the upload. Now there are two beings, both with the same memories, the same quirks, the same favorite breakfast cereal. But here's the catch. There are two distinct loci of perspective. The digital copy isn't you. It's a sibling, starting identical but diverging instantly, like quantum entanglement splitting into separate realities. Now, you may still wonder, fine, but what if the brain is destroyed in the uploading process? Doesn't the digital mind just pick up where the original left off? Here's where the technical term continuity of rendering comes in. In DRT, when the original rendering ends, when the process drops below that threshold, its identity ceases. The new digital process might look, think, and feel like you, but it's a new locus, a separate existence. Think of it like an atomic state transition. When an atom is split, its identity as that atom ends. A new process begins. But the continuity is irretrievably broken. No matter how perfect the simulation, the original perspective is gone. Let me invite you to imagine. The uploaded mind wakes, experiences the world, and insists, I am you. But this is a post hoc narrative. Continuity is an event, not a badge you can hand off. The original doesn't jump, it stops. And that's not a technical failure. It's a metaphysical consequence of what identity is. Not a traveler, but a process that either continues or ends. Neuroscience gives us sobering evidence. Certain brain injuries can leave a body alive, but erase the person. What the researchers call integrative function, the brain's ability to unify perception and memory into a lived experience, vanishes, and with it, the original locus of perspective. The organism persists, but the person does not. Now, you might be asking, can't we just make a list of modules, memory, personality, habits, and reconstruct identity? The reality is, human identity is a deeply nonlinear, interwoven process shaped by lifelong history. It's not a tidy stack of independent files. It's more like a living city, impossible to freeze or serialize without losing its essence. Here's where technical jargon helps. Nonlinear dynamics and coherence threshold. Identity emerges from countless interacting parts, not as a simple sum, but as a delicate, high-level pattern. Disrupt the web, and the unique rendering unravels. I want you to consider something. No static description, no matter how detailed, can capture the living, breathing process of being. Patterns are not beings. Files are not lives. So the uploading fantasy faces its most daunting obstacle. Human identity is not a pattern to be copied, but a rendering to be sustained. When it ends no reboots, no digital rebirth. Let's zoom out. From the DRT perspective, the world isn't made of objects or information, but of stable renderings, ongoing events that persist as long as their processes do. The atom, the person, even the city. Each is a locus of perspective at its own level, its identity woven into the fabric of a continuous rendering. Consider this. When you convert an atom into energy, its atomic identity ends. A new rendering begins. The same applies to people, only on a vastly more intricate scale. Identity is a feature of the rendering, not a possession or a passport that can be stamped and transferred. Now, you might say, but if the uploaded mind feels continuous, isn't that good enough? It may seem so from the inside, but that's just the new rendering's first-person narrative. For the original, there's no transfer, only an ending. Let me close with this thought. DRT doesn't just undercut the dream of digital immortality. It's a radical reframing of what reality is, not a warehouse of things, but a dynamic interplay of renderings, each with its fleeting, unrepeatable identity. So, next time you hear about mind uploading, remember, we are not software. We are not data, nor patterns to be rebooted. We are slices of reality, sustained moment by moment, and when a slice ends, it's gone. That is both the tragedy and the beauty of existence.